Have you ever wondered what it would be like to control the weather?
Lord, please, God, save my wife and child.
In another reality, very similar to ours, Cyrus Jones did just that. The wind started blowing, and there came something wild. From the moment she was born, Cyrus Jones could control the weather as far as her eyes could see. There was only one restriction. She had to wait on God.
Christ endured the cross for you, so you'll endure for him.
But how long could she wait when the whole world seemed to be crumbling around her? Her whole world had changed. Shops and malls and offices and streets. Cyrus Jones, who was all alone. Go to rhymeandspace.com/Cyclone Jones to preview and purchase the incredible rhyming tale of Cyrus Cyclone Jones and the unbelievable adventure that made her the first Guardian of Atlanta.
Hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Story to Screen podcast, the movie podcast where we review all different kinds of movies, both new and old. I am your host, Chris, and with my spider senses, I sense a certain presence nearby. He is the amazing Joshua Ling. Hey Josh, how's it going?
Yo, it's the big dog in the house again.
Oh, there you go. I just did it. Big question. Where does that wolf cry come from? Where did you get that idea from?
Well, I've actually been nicknamed Big Dog since I was 11 years old when I played baseball. One of my coaches just nicknamed me Big Dog, and it stuck. I actually was almost this full adult size at 11 years old, so that was why I was the Big Dog, because I was very, very large for an 11-year-old.
And for you're expecting a wolf cub, is that not true?
Yeah, I guess we can announce it. That is the case. Casey and I mentioned it briefly on a vlog recently on my YouTube channel, and it's kind of trickled out in a weird kind of way. But yes, we are expecting in January.
All right. You still haven't figured it out if it's a boy or a girl, none of that stuff.
Nope, just know it's healthy as far as we can tell.
Well, congratulations to you, Joshua. The family on Story to Screen here is kind of expanding in little ways. I mean, Ben
pretty well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully soon I'll be in that. Probably not. I probably never will be, man. I'm probably gonna live the rest of my days alone in bachelorhood and never get married. So.
Well, or you might actually, have some kind of secret identity that makes you feel some kind of emo angst that says you can't ever be responsible for somebody else because you're responsible for everybody.
I hate to be in that situation. And maybe I'll be strutting down New York one day and just with the black hair and dark clothes, and I'll be doing the dance and the twerking and all that stuff. No.
if any of the four of us can pull off the Spider-Man 3 scene with Peter Parker, I'd say it'd be you.
I think Ben could do it. Probably a little bit better than
me. He's a little bit too lanky. I think you're just like the perfect physique for a Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, folks, tonight's movie review is a Spider-Man from 2002, the Sam Raimi classic, and it's pretty fitting too, because in what is it, like 3-4 weeks from now, we're going to be reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming. Well, actually, the movie will be released, and we're going to definitely review that movie. I don't know if I'll be a part of that. I'm still not too sure. But Joshua, how excited are you for Spider-Man Homecoming? Are you excited for it, or are you kind of like, it has to really earn your trust first?
Well, lately, a lot of movies in general have been slightly less exciting to me just because of the fact that my life has been so crazy. But as far as Spider-Man 3 Homecoming, it looks pretty good from the trailers. But I think, whenever I see a Marvel trailer come up these days, I go, you know what? I know I'm going to like that. I just know I am. I don't even have to see the trailer. I know I'm going to like it. So when I see a trailer that's just, okay, cool, looks exciting, then I'm like, okay, yes, this is going to be great. I love it. Like, it automatically translates over to that. And then also the fact that it is Spider-Man. I love Tom Holland so far as Spider-Man, just a little bit that he was in Civil War. And I am really, really excited about Spider-Man Homecoming, just because the people at Marvel know how to tell good,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not gonna lie, I don't really care much for Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't know I think I've told you this before, and it's been well documented that I'm kind of superhero fatigued.
Yes, you are the most superhero fatigued of the four of us.
Yeah, and I think the other guys are as well. I know that you're not. I mean, you're on it. You're in it for the long haul.
Oh yeah.
But for me, I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to get to that day where it's like, I told you so, and where it all crashes down. I think after Avengers 3, I want to just wrap it up and say, okay, this is my superhero collection right here, I will definitely rewatch the stuff that I've missed leading up to Avengers 3, because I have to kind of see how the big picture, I have to see how it all connects. So I'm not going to necessarily ignore it, but I'm just like, not doing it for me, and I'm just tired of it, But yeah, but even the fact that Michael Keaton, who I think is going to be pretty good as the villain.
Oh yeah.
The man has been doing some great stuff lately, but the Michael Keaton factor is tempting, but I'm like, I don't know if that's enough for me. We'll see. Maybe I'll give it a whirl. Mainly because of the Michael Keaton factor. But anyway, but yeah, I'm. Let's go into some weekly segments. Actually, some big movie news has actually recently occurred. So we'll go into that real quickly. Okay, now one of the big pieces of movie news is that Justice League. Now, many of you do know, Zack Snyder has been replaced for the post-production phase, and for the technical reshoots are going to be occurring by Joss Whedon, which I'm sure that's exciting for you, Joshua. I'm sure about that.
It is.
Okay, and also recently, Junkie XL, who were the composers for Batman v Superman, have been replaced by the one and only Danny Elfman. He is the composer of, tonight's movie, the Spider-Man trilogy, as well as the first two Michael Keaton. See how things are tying in together? The first two Michael Keaton Batman movies from Tim Burton. He obviously gave us the iconic Batman score, and probably the definitive Batman score ever. Or theme song, I should say. But, well, first of all, how excited are you for Danny Elfman being a part of doing Justice League?
Danny Elfman has always been one of those guys that I hear his scores and I go, yeah, that's a really good score. But I don't really have the emotional attachment to him that I do to, obviously, people like John Williams, Hans Zimmer. I think he's in that category as far as talent goes. But for some reason, I've never had the emotional attachment to him as I do to some of those other guys. I think he'll do a great job. He's experienced with superheroes, and like I said, I think he'll do a great job.
Do you think he'll do something equivalent to to Batman, that theme song right there. Because that's a big one. That's a big one right there that no one, I don't think, has been able to top.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to depend partially on what the studio wants. I think that's going to be a large chunk of it. But yeah, I don't know. He's got a tall order, but he's Danny Elfman. He knows what he's doing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, I have no. Here's my thing. I have no confidence in Justice League. I mean, yes, Joss Whedon coming in, okay, fine, but I mean, there's an extensive reshoot going on. I don't know what that will require. Because Zack Snyder has shot all of Justice League, you know, so that's going to be still in his hand. And I think what Joss Whedon's going to bring in, I don't know what he's going to bring in. Probably he's just going to help keep the film intact with what Zack Snyder has already accomplished and still keep it within that box frame, so to speak. So, but yeah, the fact that Danny Elfman's involved in the score, that's pretty cool. I think he is going to contribute. I think if he's going to do something really, really interesting, I think he's the one to do it. I think that will finally bring all the pieces together. I mean, the only memorable score I can say from these movies have been Man of Steel and Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman had a really good soundtrack in terms of a theme song, but yeah, I think he'll do something kind of interesting, and we'll just have to. For me, we'll just have to wait and see what will transpire. So.
Did you want to touch on Whedon?
I mean, I have nothing much to say right there, but you go ahead and say what you want to say.
I don't have a lot either. I was kind of interested in what you were going to say, but I will say that Joss Whedon is a guy who has so much creativity in him. He has some tropes and things that he leans on like any director, and some people have been more quick to point those out lately due to his success. But I think that he it's a home run for DC. I think whatever they give him, as long as the studio stays at least 50% out of his way, you're going to have a good product. That's just him and superhero stories, period. He knows superheroes like the back of his hand. He knows how to write them. One thing though
I want to point out is that, again, he's just helping with like the post-production phase, and he's helping with the reshoot.
Right.
Now, again, how extensively those reshoots will be, I have no idea. I think it's only for a couple of weeks because that movie's coming out in November. And so he has...
Well, the other thing about Whedon, too...
I mean, here's the thing. I think he has... whatever he will bring in, it's going to be very little in terms of... But it's right. I mean, he's going to probably... he's going to basically monitor the post-production, which will require this visual effects, editing, and the scoring, obviously. And I think he'll probably do something. I think he'll be a good key right there in that sense. And he'll do some reshoots again, but he still has to. You can't go 180. He can't bring in like one Avengers elements that he had in those films, and then bring that in here because it's. Right. Because it's not going to it's not going to gel. It has to organically gel with what Zack Snyder has done.
Right. Well, what I was saying was with Patty, what's her face,
Jenkins. Jenkins,
I forget her last name all the time. What is it?
Jenkins. Have you seen Wonder Woman yet? By the way,
Jenkins. I have not, but I've heard all kinds of things about it. I'm eventually going to get to go see it. But from what I've heard of that. And because Zack Snyder was originally involved in the original production stage of that as well. My biggest point is that Joss Whedon knows how to tell stories, and thus, if he's involved in editing, he will be able to make gold out of a pile of turds.
Sure.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Because he really knows how to tell a story. That's one of the number one things people always compliment him on is pacing and editing.
Yeah.
That's where he shines, is in pacing and editing, and that comes from years on TV.
Sure,
doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer for seven seasons, and Angel for 5 seasons, and Firefly, and all these other sorts of things.
Yeah, it still has a long way to go to get to that point. I mean, I still think that, we have to kind of see eventually what the final product. I mean, are you at all like? I know you weren't interested in the DC films, but are you at least interested in Justice League nonetheless?
I am cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, it still has a long way to go. But yeah, that's my thoughts right there. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I think, honestly, I'm actually honestly curious about Aquaman, but that's kind of it. Like anything else they decide to do. That's kind of the end for me with DC,
And that's one of the reasons I've kind of stuck with Marvel, and I think that's why I'm not fatigued, is I still have yet to see the 2 Amazing Spider-Man movies. I am still yet to see.
Oh, really? Okay, so
any DC movies besides Man of Steel, I think.
Yeah,
I haven't even seen Batman vs Superman yet. I haven't been watching all these other films because Marvel has been able to scratch that itch for me, so I've stuck with them.
Sure, yeah.
And it's not that I don't want to see these other films. I just feel like I'm getting my superhero fill right here. I'm good right here.
Okay, sure.
I'm going to stick where I'm comfy,
Yeah. I think for me, it's like I'm probably more DC fan because I love Superman. That's my cup of tea right there. Even more so than Captain America. But,
well, I love Green Lantern, but we're still a ways away from a good Green Lantern movie.
Dude, should we do a Green Lantern commentary?
Maybe. I'm telling you, I am a huge fan of Hal Jordan. I love Hal Jordan in the comics. I love Hal Jordan in the Super Friends and stuff when I grew up with him and stuff like that. It's just no one can for some reason nobody can do a cop in space. Because that's what he is. Dude. He's a cop in space.
Yeah. Dude, I saw Green Lantern extended cut. First time I've ever seen it. That's 2 hours.
I haven't still seen that yet because I don't want to completely ruin one of my favorite superheroes.
That's 2 hours of my life I'm never going to get back.
Man. And the other thing is too, I will say this just as a brief aside. You can cut this if you want, but what else came out right around the same time as Green Lantern, and both that and just the reviews of Green Lantern crushed my hopes and dreams. But I actually went to see The Last Airbender.
Well, that was actually 2010, actually.
And my God.
Yeah.
Well, they were right around the same time, and it was just one blow right after the other for me.
Childhood favorites just burned. Yeah, that was my.
In fact, I just finished. Yeah,
that was my. Hold on, just one minute. I was going to say that was actually my experience with Transformers, and I've never seen. We're not reviewing Transformers, folks. So that stuff is dog poop. I'm sorry for saying that. Those films, just. Anyway, yeah, we won't get into that right now. That's kind of it. I mean, what were you going to mention right there? That something else?
I was just going to say that I had recently finished the actual Avatar: The Last Airbender TV show with Casey, and I'm telling you, if we ever just want to watch a pivotal episode of something and review it sometime, I've noticed a lot of movie franchises, or not movie franchises, movie podcasts have been doing that lately, where they'll just do one. Every now and again, and just kind of blanketly touch on a show in one episode.
Sure, yeah.
Something like that. That might be fun.
Yeah, we'll do. I've not been opposed to us doing TV reviews, but it's just it seems like everyone's schedule's so busy. But anyway, one last thing. Universal's Dark Universe. The Universal Monster movie. Oh, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Tom Cruise's The Mummy. First of all, that was a franchise I was not looking forward to. A movie, when they first announced it, I'm like, are you kidding me? I just sensed trouble was a brewing. Because, one, it felt like a copycat. It felt like, okay, yeah, you're starting out. They tried doing that with the Dracula movie a couple years ago, and that didn't work. But then, the Mummy. So, The Mummy has officially been confirmed as a major flop. And whatever the Dark Universe was going to encompass, which was going to include the Phantom of the Opera, the Dracula, Frankenstein, Creature of the Black Lagoon, which apparently this was supposed to lead up to like an Avengers-style type of film, which, for goodness sakes, what were they going to fight? I have not seen the film, but apparently like Russell Crowe is Dr. Jekyll. He's literally like the Nick Fury of that universe. And they're like, and the SHIELD type of organization that they have, they've kind of indicated like there's an evil coming, you know, like far greater than the evil mummy and all that stuff.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Well, let me just say.
Have you seen the movie?
We already had the League of We've already had the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yes. Let's just let it lie.
Oh, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I've seen a little bit of that thing. That thing looks garbage. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. In my first couple times watching it, I actually kind of liked it.
Okay.
There is some stuff in it that actually is slightly likable, but as a whole, it is just...
It's a nightmare. The thing that gets to me is that when they just... Here's the thing. Like a week or two before the movie came out, they posted like this huge photo booth of Tom Cruise and all these other actors that have been signed up for these movies, for movies that I don't think are even going to get made. You know, they got like Javier Bardem as for Frankenstein and Russell Crowe, Angelina Jolie, I think, and all these like big A-list actors in this photo booth for like, here it is, Universal's Dark Universe future with all these actors. And I'm like, you guys are never going to even make one single frame of this. I just felt... I wonder, like, how much money did they spend on that photo shoot for these actors? That probably cost way more. They probably cost way more than the actual movies that they're going to produce.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, yeah. I might check out The Mummy if for no other reason than the Tom Cruise aspect, but... Yeah, I heard that was and the fact that, oh yeah, here's the thing. The fact that they got Alex Kurtzman, who was the writer of like Star Trek Into Darkness, and he's the Transformers movies, and he's like written a lot of bad movies. I mean, the fact that he wrote even Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is horrible. So the fact that when I first heard that he was going to direct it, I'm like, okay, this movie is going to be doomed. Yeah. And I was right, you know, hate to be prideful, but yeah, I was right. But anyway, but yeah, that's why I'm kind of in this mind shell where I'm like, you know what, I'm kind of done with blockbusters because they have nothing to offer. I'm ready to close that book in my life, so I'm ready to move on from that. But anyway, and I'm ready to move on from this conversation completely. But anyway, so yeah, let us go ahead and jump into our review for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Who am I? You sure you want to know? If somebody told you I was just your average, ordinary guy, not a care in the world, somebody lied. Truth is, it wasn't always like this. There was a time when life was a lot less complicated. Can I take your picture for the school paper?
Sure. In this lab, we have 15 genetically enhanced super spiders.
There's 14. One's missing.
Peter, are you alright?
I'm fine.
Pete, look, you're changing. I know I went through exactly the same thing at your age.
No, not exactly.
Wow.
Peter, may I introduce my father, Norman Osborn?
Great honor to meet you, sir.
Harry tells me you're quite the science whiz. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
What the hell was that?
Whatever it is, somebody has to stop it.
With great power comes great responsibility.
This is my gift.
Wow.
It is my curse.
Who are you?
Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
Do I get to say thank you this time?
Do too much. You're not Superman, you know.
What you just heard was the original trailer for Spider-Man. It was directed by Sam Raimi and stars Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, and James Franco, and William Dafoe. I'm going to start with you, Joshua. First of all, you've been a huge Spider-Man fan, and you have a huge devotion to this film particularly. We'll talk about the other films later, but what has been your relationship to the very first Spider-Man movie, and did you actually go see it when it first came out?
I did. I remember specifically I was 12 years old, and at the time, you never know what you're going to expect in 2002 as far as a superhero movie goes. It could be Spawn. It could be The Crow. It could be Batman in 1989. You know, it could be all kinds of various things, but in this particular, it could be Dick Tracy.
Are you saying Batman 89 or Dick Tracy or Bat?
Who was that?
Dick Tracy or Bat?
Yeah, the 90s one. Who is in Dick Tracy? I can't remember. Warren.
Oh, you don't like Dick Tracy? Warren Beatty? Dick Tracy?
I wasn't a fan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, okay. I'll rephrase that. How about instead of Dick Tracy, instead of picking on Dick Tracy, I'll say The Shadow with
Oh, I thought you liked The Shadow. I thought
Baldwin, Alec Baldwin.
Am I mistaking the?
I love The Shadow. I hate The Shadows, but with Alec Baldwin.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I love the character of The Shadow. Let me just state that right now. I love the character.
Me too.
I just love the Alec Baldwin movie a lot. But you never know what you're going to get in 2002 with superhero movies. I specifically remember my dad and my mom going out to see it because it was a cool looking movie. And they wanted to see it. And my dad came back home and said, I have to take you to go see this movie. And my dad didn't do that very often. There was a few times where he would do that, where he would say, I have to take you to go see this movie. And one of those was Spider-Man, and the other right around the same time was The Fellowship of the Ring, like a year later. And so that was a very special time of bonding with my dad and with our family, really, just being able to talk about Spider-Man and all this kind of stuff. That's kind of my relationship with it for the most part. This was really a formative time for me, and I think the thing that really stuck out to me was, you know, I'm starting to like girls around that time period and whatever else, and I'm seeing a guy sacrifice for the people he loves. And I think that was the thing that stuck out to me the most, as you know, in my formative years, is I wanted to be that kind of sacrificial person for whoever I loved, no matter if it was romantic love or not.
Okay, I have I actually I didn't see this movie in the theaters when it first came out. And I wasn't really big into superheroes. Like, that wasn't really my go-to thing. I mean, I liked a lot of the TV shows. I remember watching a lot of like the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s. Remember that?
Oh yeah, I love the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s.
Okay. I saw this like a little later when it came out on VHS, and it was
Venom is my favorite villain because. Sorry, I was just gonna say Venom is my favorite character from Spider-Man because of the '90s TV show.
Okay. But I was gonna say was that I remember watching this, and I was a little kid, so I wasn't really able to connect to like the human elements as much as I should. And that was like after like Lord of the Rings, and I'd seen Lord of the Rings, and that was something that really blew me away. This one, I was still kind of wrapping my head around the, stories and how to tell stories. And I saw it a little later, and I think it was like right before the Avengers movies were kicking off, or Marvel Cinematic Universe was about to kick off, and I think even The Dark Knight as well. And this movie really surprised me of how well, and I think even to this day, more so than any of the other Marvel movies that have come since then, how well this movie is actually a very well balanced human character piece in so many ways. It manages to balance, and I wouldn't even go as far as say it put character above spectacle first and foremost.
Yes,
which I think is a good thing for a movie like this. It's very interesting too, because when you look at this film, when you watch this film nowadays, it has that very like late 90s, early 2000s kind of teen rom-com look to it. I don't know, or that just film look to it. You remember like there early 2000s or 1990 films had a very distinct look to it in terms of the film,
right?
I don't know. It was just like, early, kind of the turn of the century kind of look to it, with like, we were just, another thing, it had that very distinct look to it. And, another thing too was that the marketing, like this was Batman 89 for us. Like this movie was everywhere for like 2 years. Like I recall not going anywhere without seeing the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man merchandise just somewhere, like whether it was toys, posters, it was on shelves for a long time. You recall the marketing campaign for this movie and how long that was?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's spread out before 9/11, because if you remember correctly, the first teaser trailer that was put out still showed the Twin Towers, and he was there was a helicopter caught in a web between the two towers, the Twin Towers, and that they had to obviously take that down after 9/11 and not show that anymore. But I mean, that's pre 9/11, that's pre 9/11/01, and this movie came out when
2002, May 2002. So we were just roughly like, when was it, September? It was like roughly like 7 months or 8 months out of September 11th. So,
yep.
And I think
that's not that long.
No,
I mean, a baby can't be born, in that amount of time.
Yeah, but the fact that, here's the thing too. I think another reason why this movie had such a huge impact with audiences and why it was so enduring for that time, for those early 2000s, the mid 2000s. Was because I think in America we had the 9/11 attack, and I think this movie, was an uplifting type of movie and the ideas of heroism in our country, and I think across the world we needed heroes. I would even go as far as say, Bush was a hero. President Bush was a hero to many people. Controversial, yes, but he was a hero to many people as well, for the common man, because I think he was fighting great odds.
He did some good things.
Yeah, sports legends that
he did some bad things too.
Sure,
what I mean?
Yeah, which Spider-Man too, if you think about it. But anyway,
well, let me point out one other thing. I actually was looking, and don't ask me why. I'm not really sure. I was just playing a game with my wife. The 2002 top 100 I was looking at today, because was in my brain. Maybe it was because it's but I was just looking through, and there's a lot of songs by Creed and a lot of songs by Ashanti. But one of the things that stuck out to me is there are 2 songs that year in the top 100 called Hero. Mm-hmm. One by Enrique Iglesias, has nothing to do with this movie, but I'm sure you've heard it. And the Chad Kroeger song, that is at the end of this movie, the lead singer of Nickelback. And I really do love the biblical imagery thrown into that song. A world full of killing and blood spilling. This world never changes, and they say that a hero can save us. I'm not going to stand here and wait. I'm going to hold on to the wings of the eagles, watch as we all fly away. It's like I'm going to stand up for what's right. And be that. And I think that this short of 9/11, that makes sense that there would be two songs named the same thing, because you don't usually see two hits with the same name of the song. That just doesn't happen because the record labels don't want to overlap. They want their marketing to be right and all this other kind of stuff, and because that's how you make money. But this was the year we needed it.
We needed heroes.
We needed songs about heroes. Well, we needed songs about heroes too. That's my point. You know, it's like songs and movies and art about heroes.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why, I kind of mentioned earlier the human aspect as well, because as much as it was a movie about, it had spectacle to it, it had humanity to it. And I think they found out that, for many of you who know the story of Spider-Man, he gets bitten by a spider, and that's what gives him his powers. But I think there's a lot more. I think it's a little bit more deeper here than I think maybe even Stan Lee kind of maybe originally had intended. But you have Sam Raimi, who is honestly kind of a cult figure in films. I mean, he did Darkman, he did the Army of Darkness,
which by the way, I cannot stand Darkman. Just wanted to point.
Oh, that's another movie. I thought you actually liked Darkman.
I think it's a terrible movie. No, I really, really do not like Darkman.
And then the Evil Dead movies too. That's just funny. So you had a guy who was kind of horror cult classics. Not a guy who never did a lot of big blockbuster type of films, or heck, even serious dramas. You look at what he brings to the table, he gets so much right. I mean, he makes Peter Parker identifiable in the sense for a lot of people. Because he is a guy that's, he's obviously turning that age. He's making that transition into, or he's in that part of his life where he's trying to figure out who he is, where he's going, what he wants to be. And then this big hurdle, this unexpected hurdle that unfortunately that will never happen to us, but it could, some people may view the gift of Spider-Man as maybe as a bit of a curse, or it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. It all depends on how you use it. A la the speech of great power comes great responsibility, But
his line about this is my gift, this is my curse,
Yeah, I mean, and first of all, I liked how they opened up that
which was later turned into a... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that that opening narration, you kind of wonder, he's obviously narrating the story, but you're kind of wondering if that point in time he's done with Spider-Man, or if he's actually just mirroring it in his mind, like he's talking about it right there and then. It's an interesting kind of theory that I kind of have right there. Is that towards the end of his career, or is he kind of narrating as it goes along? What's kind of going on at that when he's narrating? I know it may sound like a bit of a weird question to ask, but we'll talk. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say too, Ghosts and Curses. That goes, very briefly touch on Spider-Man 2 soundtrack. That was a Yellow Card song that made it onto the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack, and the song really, really hits the heart of Spider-Man, I think, more than any of the others that have been on the soundtracks. I really think having Vindicated by Dashboard Confessional was not choice, and they should have had Gifts and Curses as the end credit song. But it's a thing in Peter Parker Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure it was in some of the original comics, that phrase Gifts and Curses, talking about how something can be a gift on one hand but a curse on the other. And I think that more than any of the other Spider-Man movies we've seen so far, they really nailed that home. Even beyond what happened with Uncle Ben, this is something that, and the whole great power comes great responsibility. It's the idea that this is something so great. How can you possibly wish you didn't have it?
Mm-hmm.
but then also this is so terrible. Why would you ever want it? All at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying that plays to contentment in people's lives. I think that a lot of people have gifts and things that they feel are underappreciated, and I know even in my situation right now, this is just a little bit of a vent, kind of, sort of, but not much. I have a kid on the way. Everything's pretty much paid for. I've got a good job that I actually really enjoy doing. I've got my great wife, and we're doing great. But I still want that one extra thing, and that one extra thing for me right now is trying to get my storytelling and music business going. And a lot of people will ask me when I'm really pushing forward, they're like, well, what else could you possibly want? Even though this isn't necessarily as much about wants and desires with Peter Parker, I think that it's a gift and it's a curse to have a talent. I have talent in storytelling. I have talent in musicianship, and I want to share it. And it's such a frustration when I can't.
Sure. Sure. I think the thing is,
that's one of the ways I connect with it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with like the power aspect, because in the first act, first of all, I like how in the first half of this movie, Sam Raimi does a brilliant job of actually of telling both the stories of the hero and the villain. They both coincide with each other. I mean, like after like Norman Osborn becomes infected, he solely focuses on Peter Parker's arc after he gets bitten. I mean, it's funny how they both both the hero and the villain are kind of given birth at the same time, which is kind of interestingly enough. But what I like about Peter is that, and you were kind of talking about, this is a secret that, I mean, first of all, how often do people get bitten by spiders? First of all, it's mainly lethal, but that it's able to help them in a major way. That he's able to crawl and climb walls. It's a very interesting kind of approach that Raimi took to present that. That he kind of uses as that. Well, first of all, I mean, he gets ripped. After he's bitten, first of all, he's kind of the jock. I mean, he's really highly despised. He wants the girl. He wants the girl of his dreams, and he just doesn't know how. No one really wants him. And then, after he gets bitten by the spider, I think that kind of pushes the vanity aspects of his life or his wants further, because like, I can beat the school bully, which that was a fun scene. I can beat the school bully. I can have all these powers. I can do so many great things. I basically have the world at my feet in a weird way. He kind of thinks that way. Maybe at first, maybe when he goes to get the boxing ring, and he goes to that fight with Bonesaw Savage.
Randy Savage.
Randy Savage, yeah. But I think he calls himself Bonesaw is ready.
Bonesaw is the character. Macho Man Randy Savage is the actual wrestler / actor. God rest his soul.
And then I like how he is, because when he sees Mary Jane with the guy, and he comes up in his car, he's like, well, maybe that's a way. I mean, how many of us have been in that situation where like we've seen somebody else who's cool and all that stuff? It's like, oh, that's how you get girls, and then things just don't work out. Well, first of all, in Peter's situation, he doesn't even get close to that car. I mean, the money is taken away from him. The fight dealer swindles him, and then kind of the consequences of when he lets the thief get away with the money. Instead of stopping him, he lets him get away, and he got a little bit cocky right there. I mean, he was full of himself. Like, look, you didn't help me. Why should I help you? So he lets him get away, and then that kind of that fires back on him.
Yep.
In a major consequence. But I know we've been kind of talking about the Peter Parker arc, but
at the same time, well, I was gonna say, like, it's not a huge. he was dipping his toes into hedonism. He never went full on into having the world at his fingertips, as you were putting it and stuff like that, until that moment.
Yeah.
When he stepped over the line and didn't stop that guy.
Mm-hmm.
That was really the moment where he wasn't no longer taking responsibility. And so that was all about him. That was the one bad decision he made. It was one wrong step and boom, your whole life changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it backfired to him, what he was trying to do.
So that in and of itself, is a really good scriptural connection too, when you think about some of the things about the Proverbs and stuff, especially when it talks about the adulteress, and how, you continue forward into these things, but you don't know that this leads to death, the
pursuing of earthly.
In this case, Uncle Ben's death, and go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, it's okay. Well, I was just saying that, like in the parable of the adulteress in Proverbs, it talks about how his feet go down to death and he doesn't know it. He's basically flirting with disaster. And Peter was flirting with disaster ever since he got his powers.
Mm-hmm.
He kept flirting and flirting and flirting, and then when he stepped over that line, boom, he was just hit. And I think that's a really good picture of what happens when somebody is playing with sin.
Mm-hmm, yeah, he tampered with the darkness,
and even playing too close to sin. Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe I take that back. I think maybe more so in Spider-Man 3. I think he kind of more so dabbles in the sins of the. He dabbles more into that. I think that movie is more. We'll get into Spider-Man 3 when we get to it, but I think Spider-Man 3 is a better example of that. I think that was a better terminology. I think he kind of tiptoes. I mean, he barely even gets through, I mean, this is a world that he is not really. He's an innocent kid. I mean, he's a good kid. He's got straight A's. He's trying his. He's really good at science. I mean, he's that type of kid. He has a lot of promise to him, and I think that kind of he wants to kind of be. I like how this movie is kind of like it's trying to be kind of like Smallville. It's like he's trying to find. Well, maybe I can, with my powers, I can get what I finally have always wanted. Like these human things, these desires, these personal things that I want. And, there's nothing necessarily bad with that, but it's like there does come, again, this is something he doesn't really quite understand. There's our powers he doesn't quite understand. So it's a much more bigger, broader thing that he has to kind of tackle in his mind. Or when it comes to it, how he has to tackle it is, when he gets there to that point. I guess we'll talk a little bit about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or just Tobey Maguire, period. Well, I like Tobey Maguire a lot in this movie. I liked him in other things too. I think he has a lot of interesting. He's made a lot of interesting films throughout his career. I mean, he's done Brothers. He's done Pawn's Sacrifice, which I highly recommend. Pawn's Sacrifice. The Bobby Fischer story about chess and communism. It's a very interesting movie. But he plays. It's funny watching him now in that film at this point in time. He's so baby-faced. He brings a lot. I like his innocence. There's a certain. You get the sense that there's such an innocence to his Peter Parker that, he's broadening. He's about to become a man. There's just such an innocence to him that even when he does become Spider-Man, there's still something kind of sympathetic to him because he's so young.
Right.
And this is, he's tackling, a big responsibility that you're not too sure if he can handle quite yet, or maybe he's not too sure that he can handle with. And I like he's not the most expressive. He's one of those actors that I don't think he's the most expressive with his eyes. And maybe I could be wrong about that. But what are your thoughts on Tobey Maguire as an actor and his Spider-Man / Peter Parker?
I've only seen him in a few roles. Most recently, Great Gatsby.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which that movie kind of, yeah, it was. He did a good job in it. I had some issues with the movie, but
he was good in it.
Do what?
He was good in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that in Spider-Man, it's a weird thing. Peter Parker is a lot more flexible of a character than a lot of people want to admit that he is. There are certain personality traits that will always be there with him. One of them is snark. Another of them is shy. Another one is introverted. Another one is a little bit spastic. And you can do all of them. And I think the closest to doing all of them is Tom Holland so far. But I think that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, the thing that it really caught was the sense that he drew sympathy in a way that I have not seen for a lot of other superheroes. You don't feel for Thor the way you feel for Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker.
Mm-mm.
You don't feel for Iron Man. I'm talking Iron Man 1.
Yeah, no.
Way you feel for Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a guy who really truly wants to do what's right. The closest I can come up with is Captain America, or pre-super soldiering. Like he but even that's not.
I think he wants to do the right thing.
There's something about Tobey Maguire's ability.
Yeah, he wants to do the right thing, but he's still caught up in this, I'm still growing up and trying to develop my morals, and I still don't know exactly what the right things 100% are. I still can't get 100% things right in my personal life. He's trying to. There's the personal life aspect and the superhero aspect that Raimi does very well. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, and it's just this thing where with him, he has this incredible ability to draw sympathy from you. Some people find him a little bit whiny, and various feel like he has some kind of crazy ability, like I keep saying, to draw sympathy. It's something that Hayden Christensen needed as Anakin Skywalker. It's something that Luke Skywalker needed in A New Hope. Tobey Maguire has that thing, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. It's a thing that gets you on his side and keeps you there.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see him do the right thing so bad. And I honestly think that performance, that part of his performance, while other parts can be hokey and cheesy, and he's not a subtle actor necessarily, I think that for that emotional draw alone, I think that he might have one of the best superhero performances ever.
Yeah, no. And I think even more so than Andrew Garfield ever had. And first of all, I don't like the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but those movies were kind of coming from the wrong place. But I think more so than Andrew Garfield, and it maybe even more so than Tom Holland, because I think he manages to. I remember that scene in the movie where he's talking to Mary Jane after she comes out, and he's there, and they're talking about what she wants to do with her life and what they both want to do. There's such a sincerity when he's there talking about, like, when he cried like a baby when he was watching her in her high school play, and they were just talking about pursuing life and all that stuff, what they have to do to pursue life. There's just such an earnestness in his eyes, and. I know he said maybe he's not the most expressive actor, but I think you can definitely know when he's being sincere and when he's being loving. And what I like about him, I think, is that he's actually the most caring. You sense you can sense when he cares about somebody very deeply, and a very thought. I think he's
you can tell he's ready to die for somebody.
Yeah.
He's ready to die for the people he loves. And I don't think you get that sense near as much from any other superhero performance ever. It's this sense of, I am absolutely ready to do whatever it takes, even my own life, to do what's right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, look, he has to take care of
not just do what's right because it's right. Right, not just do what's right because it's right, but because he loves these people.
Yeah.
You're right, it's love.
Yeah, and I don't think... I mean, yeah, there's some other emotional attachment that some other heroes have, like maybe Captain America, but I don't think you get the sense that... I would say more so Captain America is willing to sacrifice his life for anybody, but I can't say the rest for these other superheroes, because I think they've got their own personal problems that they're trying to overcome, and they're trying to... and that they're trying to overcome maybe selfishness. I think even Tony Stark is a guy. I don't see Tony Stark as the kind of guy that would be sacrificing, to be kind of honest. I mean, I think he's the kind of guy that would like to see everybody else go first and then maybe make the sacrifice. But I don't see him being upfront and no, I don't know. I'll take the easy way.
He has to be pushed to it. Yeah.
He
has to be pushed to it.
Where Tobey Maguire, I can say, okay, yeah, this guy will do anything because I think when you look at the Marvel movies, they have infinite amount of power in not just physically but also earthly wise. They have, and here you got a guy who's just normal. He's like the lowest of lows. I mean, well, maybe middle class. Well, I would say very bottom middle class of a superhero.
Yes.
Well, when we get to Spider-Man 2, we'll talk a little bit about that and where he's at, because I think in that movie he's at the bottom of the bottom right there. But I think with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, you get the sense that he's a guy he's the complete opposite of all these other guys, and yet he still strives, but still he strives, and he has so much that he fights for, even though it's at the lowest part of the spectrum, if you know what I mean.
Right.
I think I want to talk a little bit about the Green Goblin stuff, because I just want to say something. I've never had a problem with the Green Goblin costume. I've never had a problem with that. I know people will say oh, it looks like the Green Power Ranger. I've never had a problem with William Dafoe's Green Goblin. Now, maybe could William Dafoe have actually facially played the Green Goblin? Absolutely, yeah. The one thing I did want to say, though, is that I think this movie, another thing that this movie does very well, is that it kind of combines the whole, the relationship between fathers, because you have Tobey Maguire and his relationship with Ben, with Uncle Ben, his relationship with Norman Osborn. And what I like about them is that Uncle Ben is at the low end of the spectrum. He's kind of a middle, very low end, kind of middle class, maybe middle class worker. I don't think you get a sense of where he works or what he does for a living. And then you got what he did for a living.
He's retired.
Yeah. And with Norman Osborn, he's the richest guy. I mean, he's got the successful company, but yet he's got so much turmoil going on. Here's the weird thing. You have that scene with Ben Parker and Aunt May when she says, we've been through the rough times, but we've managed to get through them. I mean, how often do you see a scene like that in comic book movies? You don't. Really, you don't. And what I love about that moment is that she says, look, we've been through rough times, but we continue to thrive. And so he has, Ben Parker has nothing but his family to look out for. Here you got Norman Osborn. He has everything, and yet he's still out of control. Nothing is in control. You expect with people who have money, and I don't know if that's I don't think Raimi was making a commentary between social class issues or anything like that. I don't think he was. But you can definitely look at that and say, oh, here's a guy who has barely nothing, but yet he's still happy or content. And then here you got a guy who's all powerful, and yet he has no control whatsoever. And then he turns into this monster, basically. So it's kind of an interesting kind of parallel right there between the two. What do you think of that? Were you able to draw those ideas?
Can you rephrase that? I'm not quite following.
Okay. So so you have Ben Parker and Norman Osborn. They have both, one is at the low end, but yet he's content with everything. And then you have Norman Osborn, who's this rich, powerful guy, but yet he has no control. But yet they managed to kind of draw a contrast between the two and who Peter Parker kind of looks up to. Now you get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. There is definitely a parallel there. As far as how deep you can draw it, I think it is sort of a surface level thing. I think that it's not so much saying something about the class of person necessarily. I think it's more about just the basic moral fiber of who they are. But at the same time, Norman Osborn isn't the crazy person that he becomes after the Goblin Serum and all that. I think that Norman,
but circumstances do push him to take to do something that, first of all, has this Green Goblin Serum that has had kind of negative results towards like these animals, and then he tries it on himself, not knowing what's going to happen, and then look what happens there.
Right. Yeah, it's just this thing where I feel like Norman, you could just as easily make a case that he was dealt a bad hand. And so was Uncle Ben. But Uncle Ben, even though he only dealt with it very shortly, made the best of it, and Norman Osborn did not, So there's that. I think that's their reaction to how they were dealt a bad hand, Ben with nephew/son who, is obviously having problems and he can't seem to get through to him. Mm-hmm. And Norman Osborn with, his whole business collapsing underneath him. And they both tried to deal with it. Ben didn't panic. Norman did panic. And that's what we see what happens,
Yeah. I think, and I like how, do you get the sense that him and his son, that Norman and Harry are kind of estranged from each other, or they just don't have a really good relationship? I don't know. That's one thing.
Yeah, there are some lines and things specifically from Harry who says that they haven't had a good relationship. But you can either take that as teen angst, I think, or you can take it as Norman
not being
being too obsessed with his own business to care about his family.
Sure, yeah. And you got to get the sense that maybe,
and I kind of like how that's ambiguous too, because let's just face it. James Franco does a really good job playing, a creepy high school D-bag, so just saying.
We'll talk about James Franco just a little bit, but let's talk about William Dafoe as Norman Osborn. I think he's honestly like one of the best movie bad guys ever. Yes. He goes over the top with the voice. I mean, but I think it works. I mean, that
voice is one of the best evil voices ever. It just is. I love that voice.
Oh yeah,
I want to hear that voice reading me bedtime stories. I want
to
be like, and Goldilocks said,
"Can spider?"
My favorite line from him is that
the itsy bitsy spider went up the bottom spout. Down came the gob.
I would love to be in a theater and actually see how people reacted to that. If they cringed, or if there was actually
we laughed.
Okay.
Oh, it was laughter. It was definitely laughter.
Yeah.
But it was like, at the same time, it was an uneasy laughter. It was like laughing at the pencil joke in The Dark Knight.
Okay.
It was that kind of laughter.
Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. In a good way. I do think, however, William Dafoe, who's a great actor, I think he actually saves the material, because I do think he actually kind of has the less... I don't think he has as tight of a role, or in terms of, I don't think his arc is as well known or as well developed as, say, like Peter Parker's. Because I think he's trying to get back his industry. He's trying to get, sure, I think he goes after the guys who threw him out of his company, which that stuff works. But when it comes to like him and Peter Parker, or to Spider-Man, I'm not too sure what he's trying to do. Like, sure, he wants to see the hero fall, and he gives that speech about seeing heroes fall, that people like seeing that. But what's his long-term motivation? Is it that what is it? Maybe I might be missing something right there. Sure, maybe he wants to have him join his side. He kind of mentions that, but you're not too sure exactly what he wants post killing the.
I really think. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think that honestly, what I get from him more than anything else is just an alpha male idea. You know, he wants to prove to himself and everybody else that this goblin serum was legit. It doesn't matter if they want it anymore. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. This is just him proving he was right and him proving that he's the best, basically. And Spider-Man way, so he's going to take care of him.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense? Because the serum's messing with his brain. You know, it's just
so it's just making him. It's just
this is for guts and glory. He knows he's going to go down at some point. He's going to go down in a ball of glory.
I don't know. I wouldn't say he knows, but I think he's definitely biding his time to where he's gonna just cause mayhem, and maybe that's just the nature of the Green Goblin character, because I would say the Green Goblin is as relevant of a supervillain as like the Joker is to Batman. Because
maybe
I mean maybe it's just me, but maybe from maybe some of the animated shows that I've seen, he's definitely a guy that causes chaos. Like he's just one of those villains that will just go out there and just causes mayhem for no apparent. Maybe for some planning, but that's it. But yeah, William Dafoe just does such a great job with the material that he has. And, but yeah, that's just the one part of this movie I've never quite understood. If he's there, just what is his motivation? What is he trying to do? Have you ever had a problem with the Green Goblin outfit? Like, I know it's not like comic book spot on, but have you had a problem with that suit?
I think that it hinders Willem Dafoe's ability. By the way, this is not me trying to correct you or something crazy, but it's one of those random things that I always said William Dafoe too, but actually look at his name. It is Willem. It is, and it's pronounced that way. It's W-I-L-L-E-M.
Okay. Willem Dafoe, not William Dafoe. Okay. Yeah.
I know. I did that for years too. So I hear you there. But it is Willem Dafoe. But he actually is such a great facial actor that I think it kind of spoils his ability to really show off his crazy acting ability.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, I don't have a problem with it.
No.
I think that's one of those characters that you want to see his facial expressions. He's almost as crazy and ridiculous. He's on the same level for me, facially acting and voice acting, as like Tim Curry. You know what I mean? Like how he can go absolutely ridiculously, hideously over the top with his facial and voice acting. And I absolutely love seeing the mirror scenes. I think the mirror scenes.
Oh yeah, the mirror
scenes. The creepiest stuff we've seen in any superhero.
Oh yeah, I love how
mirror scenes are incredible.
Yeah, the mirror scene, like, you know, he's telling them what, because the normal Norman has no idea what's been going on. So it seems like he goes he seems to go like on a memory spat. Like he doesn't remember anything when he becomes Green Goblin. So, but I love that mirror scene when he's looking at each other, and I like how Dafoe plays it when you see the Goblin. The bad Norman in the mirror, and when he's approaching him, and then when you see William Dafoe coming into the scene, and I like how his mannerisms are kind of evoking like, what is this, as opposed to in the mirror, he's like, you know, come on, you know, he's giving a performance right there. He's like physically impersonating the Green Goblin. And I just love those moments that he has. He's honestly, I think he's probably my second favorite Spider-Man villain, next to Alfred Molina. Actually, no, I think I might even put Dafoe on top, because I don't think anyone has quite
I would. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think any, but as great as Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, I think Defoe had something there, and I think honestly, I don't know if I would say this is the film that kind of started the whole villain problem thing. Probably not, but you could probably say like, well, maybe villains are just not as well defined, and they let these.
I think that was Spider-Man 3. Honestly.
Oh, really? Okay.
When people were like, "Oh, villains don't have to be well defined, just as long as there's a threat to the hero." I'm like, okay. You don't need a sympathetic villain, but you do need a well-defined villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the thing that a lot of superhero films are really lacking.
Sure. What are some elements about this movie that you really, really like that has stood up for that stand out to you?
I think the chemistry between Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire is extremely underrated. Mm-hmm. I think the kiss upside down in the rain is iconic. I think that the whole Girl Next Door story is very good. Yes, I know Gwen Stacy comics, blah 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 blah, but they really did a good job building their own thing. And I really do like the Gwen Stacy story too. Don't get me wrong, but this is a really really fantastic story. And I think that I think Kirsten Dunst gives her best performance of a lifetime. Let's be honest.
Really? Okay. Really.
I personally.
She's cute. I think she's cute and vulnerable. A very
likable character.
I think she's cute and vulnerable.
And what?
I think she's kind of cute and vulnerable at the same time. I like that.
Yeah. And I think that Peter, we've talked about his heroism. He's such a likable character, and you want to root for these characters. There aren't very many superhero romances right now at all.
No.
I think that people enjoyed the Peggy Carter thing.
Maybe the closest is maybe Pepper and Tony. Maybe Pepper and Tony is the closest thing, but
yeah, but she's kind of out of the story now, and then also Jane Foster's gone by the wayside, and we've got all these sorts of things. It's just like I kind of miss how special those kind of relationships can be when you've got such a high stakes job as Peter does, and things that they have to go through in Spider-Man 1 and 2. That really sticks out to me, is that really is a fantastic romance. I think it's very underrated. Mm-hmm. I think that it really draws you in, and they're both so vulnerable, and they just want what's best for each other in most ways, in cases. I think even Mary Jane, when she does realize, in our future episodes that he's Spider-Man, that she wants what's best for him, and is gonna help him get it. And I really love that dynamic. I love how he tries to keep it secret. It's all these tropes, but they're done so effortlessly well.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I do like that. I think I like the way that it's written. Kirsten Dunst, I kind of go back and forth on as an actress. I think she's good in some things.
Same.
Yeah, I think she's good. Yeah, and I mean, she was good in Little Women. I mean, she's good there. She's very cute. I mean, I like early 2000s Kirsten Dunst because I think she's just very cute. But I think she brings the vulnerability a little bit more, and I like how she kind of her whole the hot girl thing, or the it girl. It's all kind of like a ploy. It's like she's using it as a disguise to conceal herself because she's very hurt. So many things have happened in her personal life, and she's hurt. She's been hurt, and I think that's kind of where the human aspects of this of the movie, I think, kind of works, because I think the Tobey Maguire relationship, or the Peter Parker relationship, and her really, really works in those moments. When she comes out of the diner, and she realizes she hasn't really achieved her dreams yet. She's still trying hard to get to that point, but she hasn't really gotten there, and you kind of feel for her in those moments. I think maybe on the paper, I think you feel for her I'm not too sure if you identify with the actress embodying her. Maybe. I mean, you said you liked her in this role, and maybe I think she's good.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But it's funny too. Like, I think her and Tobey Maguire were.
She matches Tobey Maguire.
Yeah,
Maguire's awkwardness.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They do mirror each other in those sense, or they complement each other, I should say, in those sense. And I actually honestly, I think Mary Jane looks absolutely gorgeous in the Chinese toga, by the way, or that kimono. What's it? Kimono. Yeah. Kimono. Yeah. She looks so gorgeous in that. Any woman with red hair would look great like in that. By the way, I actually like the big fight sequence between him and the Green Goblin at that parade. Visual effects wise, maybe there's some shots where, that's like him going into green screen or she's on wires, but for the most part, the visual effects do hold up surprisingly for an early 2000s type of film. I think the one shot that doesn't work for me is maybe when Peter Parker's running down the hall or running down the alleyway and he's putting on his old mask and all that stuff, and then he jumps back on the wall. I think that's one visual effect shot that doesn't look good because you can tell it's not him. It's a digital Peter Parker. But
right
now, do you think
I had one other thing that stood out to me?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
I had one other thing. I think that we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the iconic, perfect, absolutely pitch perfect casting and performance of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh yeah, just brought to life immediately from the comics. Like brought to life.
Absolutely perfect.
Oh my gosh! And
there will never be a better J. Jonah Jameson.
No, you can't. Maybe the closest is Hugh Laurie from House. I think he would make a really good.
That would be interesting.
That'd be great, but he plays it like a newspaper man, like an authentic newspaper man. Like the kind of. You there? Get that guy in here. No, I don't. Just the voice that he does.
It's very of its time too. It's very of its time too. When Spider-Man first came out, that whole newspaper attitude. It comes from Stan Lee. You can tell because Stan Lee's the one pushing out these comics, and that's not a newspaper, but it's the same general sort of attitude. And I think that you can see a lot of Stan Lee in the character of J. Jonah Jameson. It kind of just basically, if you crossed Vince McMahon with Stan Lee, I'm pretty sure you'd get J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh yeah. I'm just trying to think of who. Maybe like. I would go as far and say that I don't think since like Robert Downey Jr. have you seen a character like literally or even Thor come to life from the comic book pages. Like he looks the part. He has the look of the part. He literally just comes to life, and just the mannerisms and everything. I love how he's just like, no, Spider-Man is a threat to society. He that quick kind of. That mentality where he's quick to judge.
It's almost vaudeville.
It's very vaudeville. Yeah, it's very vaudeville. And it's just so great. And I just love how the Green Goblin. I love how when he's faced with the Green Goblin, and then the Green Goblin like blows up the front of his office, and then he comes in, and then Spider-Man comes in to save him. It's like, Spider-Man, I knew you were behind this. And then Spider-Man shuts him up with the spider web. That is so...
so good.
So good. Oh my gosh. And J.K. Simmons, the man has gone on to, I think, great things, Whiplash and it's just so many great roles through him. But he's been one of those actors that's like, I love this role. I love playing that role. I would love to play him again. Unfortunately, we'll never see that, but oh man.
I wouldn't mind it if Marvel Studios ever wanted to just throw him back in there. He's so perfect for the role. I mean,
I've actually heard a rumor.
Man, that would be awesome.
I was going to say, I've actually heard a rumor that Tobey Maguire might be making a cameo appearance in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
That'd be nice.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna. I don't think it's legit, but we'll see what happens. But I wouldn't be that shocked if some of these actors come back for some cameos. It doesn't have to be anything big or massive. But anyway, I'm trying to think of some other things. There's definitely so much more to talk about this movie, like plot wise. I think the Harry Osborn character, in his arc, I think, well, James Franco is just kind of a weird dude. Let's be kind of honest. I mean, James Franco is just like, where do you come from?
Very strange.
And people kind of praise him as like this golden boy and all that stuff, and I think he's like suited for crazy alcoholics or drugs.
He's like Johnny Depp meets Russell Brand.
Oh, Russell Brand. God forgive me for saying this, but may that man go to hell. Do I hate that man? Oh, dude, I cannot stand Russell Brand as a human being. He is... him and Sacha Baron Cohen.
Fair enough. Just saying.
Just fair, yeah. Him and Sacha Baron Cohen are two of the most... idiotic people I have ever seen walk the face of the earth today. But anyway, Franco, I've seen 127 Hours. He's great in that, but he's not a guy that I can say he can play almost anything. He's kind of got his character is placed in here, I think, more so as a foil, more so as like a humanly foil to Peter Parker, in terms of being a distraction for Mary Jane in that sense.
Right.
Because I don't think he steals her from him. I just think they just get acquainted and they go off together. Do you get the sense that I get the sense that he's very much interested in Mary Jane, but maybe her not so much to him, if that makes any sense?
There's reasons he's in there, but I think they actually have to do more with setting up sequels than anything. I'll be honest with you.
He's more sequel bait than anything else.
The Harry... Yeah, he's the sequel line, I think, more than anything else. He does provide a little bit of competition for Peter, like you were saying. But that's basically it.
No, that's kind of it. And I don't think... And even in the end, I don't think he's still... Even in Spider-Man 3, I think he has a better role to play in Spider-Man 2, to be quite honest. But I don't think in Spider-Man 3, the resolution is effective. Yeah. Right. I love his moment when I like his moment at the end there when Spider-Man brings his father's dead body to him, and then he's like, oh, so, that I think kind of works effectively. And at the end where he's like, I'm gonna kill Spider-Man. But but then you kind of like, oh man, I think you feel the foreshadowing, because it's like, oh man, these two, he doesn't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He doesn't know that stuff yet. So when it gets to it, it's going to be bad. You're expecting the crap to hit the fan, so to speak, when it gets to that point. But I'm trying to think of some other things that we need. There's definitely so much more we need to talk about, like the plot. What are some? I think another thing too that I like about Spider-Man, this Spider-Man movie, is that, well, it kind of presents the whole you must choose the dilemma, because I don't think you see that in other movies. Well, maybe Superman the movie, but you don't see that dilemma of like, you must choose between the woman or the kids, your lover or your kids, and the kids in the train right over there. So which one you must choose? That whole thing kind of started the whole you must choose ploy in comic book movies. And I don't think... I think it works here in this movie because it's trying to show... Does Spider-Man himself have limits? Does he have...
Well, it also has... Throughout the whole movie, he's struggling with, am I Peter Parker or am I Spider-Man? And he finds out the answer is yes.
That he's both. That he's both.
Saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it works, right, exactly. It works because it resonates with the theme. You know, you have the overt a choice from the Goblin, or as he says, the sadistic choice. But the point is that this really is Peter choosing to be both in this moment because of the theme of the movie. Everything has been leading up to this moment where he has to, supposedly, by Goblin logic, to either choose his personal life or his hero life, and he chooses both. And I think that's the moment that everything kind of coalesces. That's really the moment that Peter wins. He still faces the Goblin and has to beat him, but that's the moment that Peter has finally won because he has accepted that he is Peter Parker and he is Spider-Man.
Okay, yeah, I don't see it in that way, but that's a good point. I have to think about that a little bit more. I'm trying to think about something else here about the film. What do you think about the fight scene, the climax at the end? Well, here's what I like about the ending too is that you get to that whole climax, you get the fight scene, and you kind of get the sense that, oh man, you know, Peter Parker, you know, and the hero isn't always invincible. You know, that he's going to get pounded big time. I don't think you see that quite often anymore in other comic book movies, where the hero is kind of pounded by maybe the Dark Knight movies, but I like how in that final moment right there, I think Norman was kind of playing Peter for a fool. You know, like he's saying to him, like, be a son to me, you know, help me get out of this. I truly believe that even if he had helped Norman, I think he still would have killed him because he was a witness. You know, he knows everything. He knows so much. I never got the sense
absolutely
he was just spitting words to just get him out of that situation. You know, I truly don't believe that he really, truly...
Well, right.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I agree. This is a very visceral fight scene at the end. I think a lot of superhero movies don't get this visceral. I think it really drives home that this is one man versus another man. Sure, there's technology and chemistry and all kinds of other things at work here besides just the strength of two men, but this is still two men.
Mm-hmm. Who are at the peak of their abilities.
One of the things... Right, and I think slowly you start to see throughout the fight that the Goblin costume, you know, he takes off the helmet, I think, right? Is it him who takes it off, or does Peter?
Yeah, no, he because Peter's beginning to bash on him completely, he's the one that has to kind of stop the fight. That's right. Yeah, he has the one that has to completely... So not only do we see that, but we also see Peter's mask coming off, the lens coming off the one side. This is a fight that is stripping them down to their basest elements. Wow,
both physically and metaphorically. They are being stripped down, barest essentials. And in the end, you see Norman Osborn as a coward who tries to trick Peter into doing what he wants him to do, which is almost identical to what he was trying to do at Oscorp. You know, He is a coward who is afraid of losing. That's really what it is.
Oh, that's a good point.
And he's afraid of losing everything. And Peter is someone who is going to do the right thing no matter what. And he loves Norman, but he knows that Norman... He makes that decision. He jumps. You know, it's a split decision. It's not like he thought it was the best decision. He's still very sad that Norman's dead, but he made a decision. and he has to live with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And
he jumps in that glider, hits Norman, and yeah, go ahead.
No, and then his final moments are actually his son. He actually, instead of saying like, "Oh, you know, my son will get you one of these days," you know, his final moments are, "Don't tell Harry." I don't know if in that moment he kind of snaps back,
right,
if his humanity snaps back or something like that, or what have you.
But he hasn't completely snapped back. But he completely snapped back. He has maybe snapped back from what the chemicals did to him, but he is still fearful. He is fearful of losing the last thing that he has, which is the tiny shred of respect his son has for him.
Yeah, but I think he's also afraid of his son turning into him potentially as well. That scene kind of speaks to me a little bit more, because it's like, in the midst of all of his monstrous, in his monstrous acts, his last moments are his son. Yeah, maybe the respect aspect too, but I think he's also more afraid, like, my son's this could happen to my son, and that can't happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get to Spider-Man 3. But we've been going on for an hour and 30 minutes here, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. But I do, I do like the ending where Mary Jane kind of confesses her love for him to Peter, and he kind of turns her down. Because I think I've always kind of wondered if he turned her down because he can't give her what she needs, or he can't, or maybe he's afraid of, if I get you involved in my world, there's going to be so much trouble, And I
think it's a lot more of the latter. I think after everything that happened with her and with Aunt May, that he does not want that anymore. He wants people to be safe.
Sure.
And we kind of see that in Spider-Man 2 when he's trying to stop being Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Oh yeah. But I liked how he turns away. I don't think you see maybe Titanic, but that's you get kind of a Titanic-esque kind of ending where the guy doesn't get the girl at the end. Because typically, like in the Superman movies and Batman movies, they always end with him getting the girl somewhat.
Right.
Or him walking away kind of triumphantly. Here you kind of feel the weight of Peter Parker's actions and what it has unleashed. People, not necessarily innocent people have died, but this is a bit weighty. Like, I think this movie does something
He has
more...
the weight of the world on his shoulders as he walks away.
Yeah, and I don't think you got that sense from previous comic book movies like Batman or Superman. As great as those films are, I don't think you got the weight of the shoulders, the weight of the world type of moment in those movies at all.
Yep.
I think you had human moments, but not the weight of the world. And I think that's where this movie works in so many ways that I think people were able to identify with it, because it had a human element to it that people are like, you know what, this person could be me. Yeah, minus the whole Spider-Man thing, but this person, it could potentially be me. I understand what this person is going through.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do when I get there? But yeah, that's going to do it for right now. But before we go ahead and wrap it up, but kind of looking at this film and the legacy of this film, what are your ending? Let me say this again. With the legacy of this film and knowing what has unleashed, upon us with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what are your final thoughts on Spider-Man, and also the overall impact that this film has had since, how long has it been? 13? No, 2012. So 15 years since it came out, and the overall impact that it's had on the genre and even the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well.
Yeah, I think that a case can be made that Batman 89 and even to a certain extent the Christopher Reeve superhero film or Superman films were in some ways more pioneering. But for me, I think that I think that this movie in particular had more effect on the legacy of and the tropes of superhero films than either of those.
Yes.
I think that this was the turning point in filmmaking when making a comic book movie became possible.
Mm-hmm.
And not only possible, but realistic. And in many ways, it did the same thing for superheroes that Star Wars did for science fiction. It was finally able to communicate something that was a bigger idea to a mass audience. And I think that the weight of the world, like you were saying, that continues in many ways to be the crux of what superhero films should be, and most of the time I think are about. And I think that's why people keep going back to see them in a lot of ways. You may not get the exact same sense as clearly as you do in this movie and in Spider-Man 2. But you do have a sense that this person has a great responsibility because they have great power.
Mm-hmm. Was that it? Okay.
So, yep.
Okay,
yep.
I'm so sorry. Oh, gosh. Yeah, me too. I mean, I feel like Spider-Man was definitely like presented the mold of how to do comic book movies. I don't, you know what? It's funny because these three films were so cultural, like they were such huge pop culture phenomenons. And then when Iron Man came along, that kind of replaced the Spider-Man kind of.
Yes.
It replaced it big time. It kind of became the new Spider-Man. And then, but you still look back at this movie, and it's like I don't think you would have the Marvel Cinematic Universe today if it wasn't for these three films, big time.
No, definitely not. And I'll even give credit to, at the very least, the director's cut of Daredevil. I'll be honest with you. You know, even though Daredevil had its issues, the fact that it was made and that it wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The fact that they were able to make another hero besides Spider-Man, you know, that sort of kind of worked.
Yeah.
Is a really big deal.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, you know, X-Men were trying to do their thing at that time, and they just completely strayed away from doing the costumes and everything else. And, you know, but when Iron Man hit, it was like, boom. This is how you do it, and we're taking the mold straight from Spider-Man. I don't care what anyone says. That's exactly what. Who was it? Who directed Iron Man?
Jon Favreau.
Man one.
Favreau.
That's exactly what Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige and all the others were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They took the Spider-Man mold, the weight of the world on Tony Stark's shoulders. They said, what would happen if Peter Parker was an absolute a-hole jerk?
If he was a billionaire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Billionaire jerk.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's it.
But yeah, and you know, again, you don't. If you didn't have these films, you know, if it wasn't for these films, you wouldn't have the MCU. But it's so funny too because at this point in time, you had a lot of other comic book movies. You know, in between Spider-Man 2 and 3, you had just bad comic book movies that were being done. Like, they were just being mass-produced, and they were pretty bad results. I mean, yeah, you had the first two X-Men were great. These movies were coming out. But then you had Fantastic Four movies, you had...
And Daredevil is... Right, yeah. And Daredevil is bad, but the director's cut is okay. You know, you get these things where you see a lot of effort. You know, a lot of effort went into Fantastic Four and Ang Lee's Hulk, you know, and all these other movies. There was a lot of things, but they weren't able to quite catch both what made it visually appealing and what made it heartfelt.
Yeah, no. And I would say maybe Hulk had a little bit more genuine ambitions than most other comic book movies at the time. But then you also had Batman Begins, what kind of started the new era of superhero movies, and then I think, you know, afterwards The Dark Knight did and all that stuff. But so you just had middle to the road, middle to really bad type of superhero movies, and then then you had Batman Begins, which took it to a new level, and then I don't think Superman Returns is bad at all, but we'll get into that conversation another time. But
I think it suffers from the same issue Man of Steel has to me, and that is Superman's likable. Stop trying to make Superman likable. Give me a villain that I want to lose.
Yeah.
That was really my big thing, but yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, final thought. We gave our final thoughts on Spider-Man. Gosh. We just gave our final thoughts on Spider-Man, but so do you recommend Spider-Man?
I think for anyone who wants to study at least in the least bit superheroes at all, superhero literature in whatever form, you have to see Spider-Man.
Sure.
There by Sam Raimi. There is no way around it. I think that there is no other superhero movie that is as pivotal as Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. I think there is no other movie, not The Dark Knight, not Superman with Christopher Reeves, not any of these other movies, Iron Man. I think that Spider-Man is the keystone of superhero films, and as such, a pinnacle of superhero storytelling. Period.
Sure. For me too, I do recommend Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi film, and it's a great film. I think you'll be shocked to. It was funny too because watching it in the midst of all these other comic movies, I think the one thing it has going for it has a heart and soul that I think most movies at that point in time, or most blockbuster movies, just didn't have. And it's good. Like, it's solidly good in so many ways. It's got great performances. It's got a great imagination to it that I think, that Raimi brought to it. And it has jazz. I mean, it has great jazz. And two, I think he's pulling from 60s comic book Spider-Man as well. I mean, that's where his love and devotion lies. And it's got a great soundtrack, and it's just got a heart and soul to it that I don't think other movies at that time had. But yeah, that's a huge recommend on my part as well.
I am so high, I can hear heaven. I am so high, I can hear heaven.
Anyway, folks, so you can find us on Facebook and on iTunes, Twitter. Also, please send us some emails at s2spodcast@gmail.com. We would really appreciate that and get future requests. Joshua, where can people find more of your work?
You can find my stuff over at rhymeandspace.com as well as joshuadavidling.com. Working on some stuff over there as well.
Anyway, folks, thank you very much for listening tonight, and we'll catch you next week. So, go Web!
Someone told me love would all save us. But how can that be? Look what love gave us.
Out of curiosity, have you ever done the upside down kiss?
Yeah.
Have a good night.
No. Does it count if you're both like flat to the ground?
Yeah, either way, but you have to do it upside down,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, is it truly upside down, or is it just like that? That's what I'm confused about, because upside down denotes that you're going against gravity, right?
True. Yeah. I mean, you could do it laying on your stomach, maybe, and then you or her have to kneel down and.
So yeah, that's happened. Yeah.
That's happened to you.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I guess that kind of
happened.
works.
Yeah.
But maybe you should try kind of grabbing onto some rope and. I think you would try, but then my head hurts. Can you see? My head hurts.
Oh boy. Good times.